The narrative is interspersed with Cedric, who details the evolution of men from the hunter-gatherer era, explaining in a cool animated video that there are rituals to define the exact moment boys become men. He mentions practices like public circumcision and marriage. In the modern world, Cedric asserts, men do not need to work as hard to win a woman's favor. He introduces us to his friends, Zeke, the player, who flirts with different women, Michael, the mama's boy, who dates while always having his mom as a third wheel, Dominic, the dreamer, who quits his job to pursue various careers like becoming a chef, paramedic, and PR agent, but cannot settle on one. His inability to commit to one profession leads to a breakup with his girlfriend. Jeremy, the non-committer, whose girlfriend expected a proposal but received a pair of nondescript diamond earrings instead. One exception among them is Bennett, the happily married man, and Cedric, the happily divorced man. After a basketball game, Cedric complains about his ex-wife Gail, who he claims nags him constantly. Zeke jokes that there are rumors Gail is whooping Cedric, causing the group to tease him. Cedric becomes defensive, hoping they will experience what he is going through. Zeke invites the group for a round of drinks, but Jeremy declines, saying he has dinner with his girlfriend Kristen. The group gives him disapproving looks, so Jeremy decides to text Kristen, assuming she will understand. In a TV show segment, Kristen is watching Steve Harvey talk about his book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, which is supposed to be a playbook for understanding the male species so women can win them over. Various women in the audience ask questions, including one who wonders why her man has not proposed despite assurances of commitment and love. Steve Harvey explains that it's because her man hasn't felt the need to take that step, prompting Kristen to relate to the situation. At the bar, Cedric awkwardly flirts with women, his pickup line skills proving inadequate. One woman responds that her heart is with Jesus. Zeke, an expert player, steps in and criticizes Cedric's approach. Zeke tries a different tactic, initially insulting the woman by suggesting she has let herself go due to her job. She reveals that her appearance is indeed related to work, admitting she has been unemployed for months. Zeke starts to empathize with her, making her smile and feel better. As Zeke walks away, the woman gives him her number, leaving Cedric feeling petrified because he has failed. The group then talks about Kristen, with Zeke expressing confusion about why she is with Jeremy. This scene highlights the dynamics between the characters and their differing approaches to relationships, all while tying back to the principles from Steve Harvey's book. Later, Gail calls Cedric and starts nagging him. Despite being in the process of divorce, Gail ends the call abruptly. Zeke suggests taking Cedric out for a boys' night to lift his spirits, but the others have their priorities. Bennett needs to attend his son's violin recital, and the men don't understand why a married man and father would prioritize family over hanging out with the boys. Michael suggests going to his mama's house to celebrate the divorce party, mentioning she has a Blu-ray player. They decide to party anyway. Cedric ominously says that a storm has come to them, hinting that one of them has betrayed their group. Meanwhile, Kristen buys Steve Harvey's book. On TV, Steve is addressing a woman's question about why men don't want relationships even after sleeping with them. He advises women to stop sleeping around and set some standards, as men respect women who do. Maya, the 90-day rule woman, agrees with this advice. Another woman complains about having high standards and being a career woman, but no one wants to date her. Steve suggests lowering her standards, though Lauren, who is independent and successful, disagrees. Another audience member asks, when is the right time to introduce her man to her kids? Candace Hall agrees with Steve's advice that women shouldn't parade different men around their children, and should introduce them early to see how they interact with the kids. Maya wakes up one morning to find her boyfriend trying to escape as things start to get serious. He quickly changes and steals both of their coffees with the speed of a special ops mission. Maya steps out to see that he's gone, leaving only a note misnaming her as Michelle and saying it was fun. Steve Harvey's book is selling like hotcakes to both women and gay men everywhere. Cedric is infuriated, believing that Steve is spilling men's secrets on how to handle them. The first story is Mama's Boy versus The Single Mom. In a bookstore, Candace is buying Steve Harvey's book when she bumps into Michael, the mama's boy. Embarrassed by her purchase, Candace quickly grabs a children's book to cover it. Michael, who is behind her in line, recognizes her from high school. To jog her memory, Michael puts on his glasses, which finally makes Candace remember him. Michael rambles nervously about how he's always been interested in her, causing the man standing between them to get annoyed. Despite the awkwardness, Michael asks Candace if she'd like to grab coffee, but Candace explains she has to pick up her son. Mentioning her child creates an awkward tension. However, Michael quickly shifts gears and asks her to dinner instead. Candace is somewhat relieved and surprised, as she has often encountered men who shy away upon learning she's a single mom. This makes Michael's invitation feel like a refreshing change. Later, we see the story of Jeremy and Kristen, who represent the non-committer versus the girl who wants the ring. Taking Harvey's advice to heart, Kristen realizes that she hasn't required Jeremy to step up in their relationship. She is still paying half of everything, a habit that started when they were dating in college because Jeremy was a work-study student. This pattern has continued into their adult lives, with Kristen shouldering more than her share of the expenses. Kristen feels envious of a couple she knows, where the man has a clear plan for their future family. Despite being a successful realtor, Kristen lives in a frat house-like environment, with Jeremy and his friends feeling more like one of the boys than a potential wife. Her colleague advises her to consider her future plans. Inspired by Steve Harvey's advice to change the game, Kristen decides she needs to set new standards to get Jeremy to commit to marriage. Back on the basketball court, Jeremy talks about how Kristen loves everything he loves and assumes she's happy with their lifestyle. In reality, Kristen dislikes their situation and is only tolerating it for Jeremy's sake. Jeremy appears immature, still living in his childhood bedroom and showing little interest in growing up. Meanwhile, Cedric has another heated argument with Gail, angrily hanging up the phone. Michael arrives at the scene looking high, but he claims he's just high on life because he has started dating Candace. The story then shifts to the dreamer versus the woman who is her own man. Dominic has begun working as a chef, a role he has always dreamed of, but has struggled to stick with one job in the past. Lauren is an independent, career-driven woman who doesn't rely on anyone. The chefs glance at Lauren, considering whether Dominic has a chance with her. Meanwhile, Lauren and Candace are having dinner. Candace shares her experience of meeting Michael, and Lauren reveals she is divorced. Candace describes Michael as soulful and sensitive, prompting Lauren to ask for more details. At the gym, the boys discuss Michael's new interest, Candace. They focus on physical attributes and make crude remarks, while the women, like Lauren and Candace, talk about deeper qualities such as intellect and sensitivity. Cedric, skeptical, dismisses Michael's potential with Candace, suggesting that his interest might be superficial. When Michael mentions that Candace is a single mom, the men express doubts, revealing their biases and stereotypes about single mothers. Candace, inspired by Steve Harvey's advice, seeks to understand if Michael is a genuine contender. Lauren, however, remains unconvinced by Steve's advice and refuses to lower her standards for anyone. Candace reads from Harvey's book, which categorizes Lauren as too strong and independent, suggesting these traits may intimidate men and make her lonely. Candace gifts Lauren the book to save her love life. Jeremy returns home with pizza, only to find his anime posters are gone. He panics, thinking they've been stolen, but Kristen calmly reassures him. She explains that she redecorated and tidied up, feeling the old look resembled a frat house. Kristen presents a new interior design magazine, but Jeremy is unimpressed and sees her changes as unnecessary. Kristen is set on the redesign, regardless of Jeremy's objections. Maya encounters Alex, who recently broke up with her, and is frustrated when he misnames her. This leads Maya into a discussion about the 90-day rule with Zeke. Maya believes that women should control access to intimacy, which she calls the cookie, to ensure that men are genuinely invested. Steve Harvey's advice on waiting 90 days before giving in is reiterated, causing Maya to express her frustration with modern dating. Zeke joins the conversation, and despite Maya's attempts to push him away, they end up getting to know each other. Dominic, now working as a chauffeur, spots Lauren while driving a Porsche and is immediately struck by her. He awkwardly tries to impress her, but fumbles with the car. Despite his clumsy approach, Dominic asks Lauren to dinner, and she agrees. Lauren reads Steve Harvey's book, which suggests that men need to feel like providers and leaders. She is initially skeptical and considers discarding the book, but begins to have second thoughts about its advice. Candace informs her son about an upcoming date, and he responds with surprising maturity and curiosity. Meanwhile, Dominic prepares for his date with Lauren. He is determined to present himself as a successful chef and Porsche driver, despite being only a prep cook and struggling with the car. Zeke advises him to be honest about his situation, but to wait until their relationship is more stable before revealing the full truth. Jeremy returns home to find their apartment undergoing renovation, and while Kristen has redecorated to move away from the frat house look, Jeremy is reluctant to part with his old chair. Kristen's compromise doesn't quite satisfy the interior designer's vision. Maya, with Sonia's help, is preparing meticulously for her date. She's chosen an outfit designed to impress and has even jotted down her dating standards. Dominic picks up Lauren in a loaned car, aiming to be the perfect gentleman. However, Cedric, who is unexpectedly driving, unwittingly disrupts the romantic atmosphere with his less-than-stellar behavior. On their date, Zeke picks up Maya, who insists he must open the car door for her. Zeke playfully drives off quickly like a thunderbolt, but soon returns because he is pranking her. Zeke opens up the door at a relieved Maya. They talk about their goals, and Zeke shares his experience in a band, playing a track he wrote, which impresses Maya. Meanwhile, Kristen and Jeremy, who are high from some recreational indulgence, struggle to have a serious conversation about their future. Jeremy laughs off Kristen's attempts to discuss their plans. Candace and Michael's date involves discussions about their careers. Candace talks about her high-level job while Michael pretends to have a more lucrative career than he actually does. They agree to skip work talk and focus on personal matters. Michael's ambition to open a restaurant catches Candace's interest. Lauren and Dominic's evening turns intimate. Although Lauren initially hesitates and claims she doesn't engage in physical activities on the first date, she eventually changes her mind and continues with Dominic. Candace and Michael share a kiss, with Michael playfully declaring that kissing her is his short-term goal. Impressed, Candace suggests they meet each other's families. Michael agrees, but just as he expresses his willingness, the door bursts open and Candace's son, Duke, makes a dramatic entrance. Duke's tough demeanor slightly impresses Michael, but Duke shuts the door before the moment can fully develop. Maya and Zeke share a kiss, but Maya halts things there. When Zeke suggests a nightcap, Maya firmly states they need to have 5 dates first. Zeke, unfazed, agrees, and Maya begins counting down the days until their 90-day rule is up. The next morning, Lauren wakes up to find Dominic has prepared a sweet breakfast platter. Lauren is revealed to be Duke's godmother, which adds another layer to their connection. Meanwhile, Cedric visits Zeke's house, where Zeke shares his experience with Maya, describing her as a diva wanting princess treatment. Cedric warns him, recounting how Gail, his ex-wife, started the same way. Zeke, however, remains undeterred and decides to continue pursuing Maya. Maya feels empowered by her control over the situation and then receives a text from Zeke asking for a second date. She asserts her standards, replying that she does not accept date invitations via text. Dominic boasts about scoring on his first date with Lauren. Despite his success, he decides to keep the truth about his job from her, allowing her to continue believing he is a chef on the rise. Michael tells his mom about Candace, but she disapproves, not because of Candace herself, but because she doubts Michael's ability to handle dating a single mother. Her perspective stems from her own experiences as a single mother. Jeremy arrives at the usual hangout, fuming about Kristen's redecorating efforts, particularly irritated over the college couch. Bennett, the only white guy in the group, takes a passive-aggressive jab at Cedric, mocking his inability to afford his own wedding. Cedric has a mini beef with Bennett being a married guy and actually putting out for the role of a husband. As the boys watch the game, the girls are strategizing their own game plan, still keeping their reading material a secret. Kristen concocts a ruse to lead Jeremy elsewhere by bringing up a company he once refused a junior-level position at, hoping to distract him. Meanwhile, Michael is playing with Duke, forming a bond. He shows a picture of Candace to the group, and Dominic recognizes her from a photo Lauren has. This revelation leads to a conversation between Lauren and Candace about the new men in their lives. They realize that Dominic and Michael have exaggerated their qualities to impress them, with one notable lie being Dominic's supposed culinary skills. Lauren and Candace decide to set up a double date. The men, however, are skeptical about the idea of a double date, feeling uneasy about the potential complications. The games continue, and later, a much taller guy asks Cedric's team to share the court. Cedric refuses, but when the giant-like team challenges them to a game, Cedric, with his small man, big energy, accepts. Despite his efforts, Cedric fails to steal the ball, insisting that they should be men and face the challenge. Things take a turn when Dominic, serving food at an award ceremony where Lauren is being honored, hears her name announced. Startled, he accidentally breaks the dishes he is carrying, causing a scene and stealing the attention. Lauren, seeing Dominic, swears on the mic. Meanwhile, Michael brings Candace home to meet his mom. The real trouble begins when Michael's mom claims she doesn't remember Michael mentioning Candace. Trying to stay upbeat, Candace faces more challenges as Michael's mom asks about Candace's baby daddy and misnames her. Candace senses something is off about Michael's seemingly perfect exterior and realizes he has deep-seated mommy dependency. Candace decides to read up on dealing with a mama's boy, understanding that her main competition for Michael's affection is his mom. On their 5th date, Zeke anticipates a nightcap with Maya at her house. However, Maya becomes avoidant, instead inviting Zeke to play a vinyl record to set the mood. The nightcap turns out to be a coffee date, disappointing Zeke. Later, the boys gather, and Zeke shares his frustration, revealing that all they did was drink coffee, eat cookies, and talk about childhood and stuff. Despite Zeke's frustration, Maya feels positive, noting she still has the metaphorical cookie in the jar. Sonia advises Maya to wear granny panties as a deterrent. Meanwhile, Alex misnames her again, reinforcing her commitment to the 90-day rule. Lauren discovers Dominic is a part-time waiter. Candace reminds Lauren of their college waitressing days, but Lauren is hesitant to pursue a relationship with someone chasing a pipe dream. Candace reminds her that she once said she didn't care about how much he makes, urging Lauren to compromise. Dominic decides to stop pursuing Lauren, feeling it's hopeless. Candace tells Lauren about Michael's dependency on his mother. Michael insists his mom loves Candace, but Lauren advises Michael to sort out his priorities. Both Lauren and Candace decide to give their relationship another shot. Meanwhile, Jeremy struggles with negative feelings as Kristen takes control of their relationship, making him feel out of sorts. Cedric declares a full-scale attack during his divorce party. He boasts about being dirtier than ever and revels in the wild atmosphere of the party bus. However, the mood shifts when messages come in. Lauren confirms another date, while Candace calls Michael for a talk, which is usually not a good sign. Jeremy starts complaining about Kristen, saying she was the cool girl before, but has now grown up, asking about long and short-term goals. The other men realize their partners have been asking similar questions and using terms like sports fish, which Bennett explains is a concept from Steve Harvey's book, referring to women who are like trophies men show off to their friends. Cedric is upset, feeling the focus should be on his celebration, not the girls' demands, accusing his friends of breaking the bros before garden hose mantra. They decide to find a copy of the book, but it's sold out everywhere. The party bus heads to Michael's mom's house. Michael goes inside and finds a copy of Steve Harvey's book. Cedric, seeing this as a turning point in the war between sexes, declares that their advantage lies at Loretta's house. They gather and dissect the book, each chapter resonating with one of their experiences. They agree that Steve Harvey is a traitor and accused him of brainwashing women. Bennett comments that they are screwed and that nothing can be done about it. However, Jeremy proposes a game analogy. They should pretend to give the women what they want to get what they want. Michael returns to Candace, putting on a dramatic show of acceptance about being a mama's boy and promising to put Candace first. His performance is so convincing that Candace forgets what she wants to say. Jeremy tells Kristen that he has updated his resume and sent it to the company she recommended, making Kristen happy. Dominic, determined to win over Lauren, studies the book and prepares a business plan for a restaurant, believing that according to Harvey, women like Lauren can only be tamed by successful men. Cedric seems to have moved in with Zeke already. He helps, though, in strategizing with the men on how to win their ladies. The boys decide to follow Steve Harvey's advice, not to genuinely improve their relationships, but to outplay the women at their own game. This leads to a series of interactions where they put on their best behavior, hoping to gain the upper hand. Dominic, taking Cedric's advice to heart, decides to wing it with his cooking, treating food as his art. However, Lauren is frustrated because she has to pick up Dominic due to his broken-down car. Candace reminds Lauren to give Dominic a chance before. Meanwhile, Lauren visits Dominic's flat and is impressed by it. Lauren's guard is slowly lowered when Dominic presents a really good wine. Still somewhat avoidant, Lauren finds herself impressed with Dominic's wine choice. Dominic surprises Lauren with a rooftop dinner, going to great lengths to make the place special. Cedric, acting as the waiter, serves the food. Lauren, being a foodie, slowly becomes more impressed and finds the setting romantic. Zeke, on the other hand, struggles with the 90-day rule as he really wants to get the cookie. He contemplates dumping Maya, but she surprises him with tickets to a John Legend concert and reveals that her uncle, a music producer, has passed along Zeke's CD. Overwhelmed, Zeke introduces Maya as his girlfriend to a friend, following Steve's advice. This earns him some brownie points to almost get a hold of the cookie, and they start making out in his car. However, Maya maintains her self-control and leaves, still remembering the 90-day rule. The women discuss how effective the book is, with Kristen noting that Jeremy seems to be turning around. Michael starts ignoring his mom's calls, putting Candace and Duke as his priority, which improves their relationship and makes them forget about their earlier conflicts. However, things start to backfire. Kristen asks Jeremy about the job at the design company, and Jeremy lies, saying the position has been filled when it's actually still open. Kristen discovers that his resume is not on file, catching him in his lie and pretense. Dominic also faces issues as Lauren sees his broken car and feels humiliated for him. Later, she sees a fancy Porsche driven by James Merrill, one of her exes. James, who is moving to LA from Chicago, is recently divorced, and Lauren hints that she is available despite her casual dating with Dominic. She accepts James's dinner proposal. Michael's turn for trouble comes when he accidentally reveals that he lied about being called back to work. He's actually been hanging out at his mom's house. Realizing his mother tongue-slip, he tries to gaslight Candace by denying that he mentioned it. Candace invites Michael to a family reunion in Culver City, but it falls on the same date as an errand for his mom's church anniversary. The men now realize that pretending to step up means they actually have to, as the pretense will eventually catch up to them. Zeke and Maya continue dating, and Maya tells Zeke that her uncle loves his CD and wants to meet him. Overwhelmed, Zeke blurts out, "I love you," one of Maya's conditions for opening the cookie jar, and they finally sleep together. However, Zeke's victory is short-lived when Maya finds out he has been reading Steve Harvey's book, making her feel played. Zeke insists he's sincere, but Maya is skeptical. Candace ends things with Michael after catching him in his lies, realizing she can never compete with Loretta. Lauren meets up with Dominic to share the good news about her proposal and the investor's interest in his business plan. Dominic invites her to celebrate, but Lauren refuses, saying she has reconnected with her ex-boyfriend James, which means she and Dominic will break up. Dominic tells Lauren she sounds like a guy and expresses how she inspired him to do better, but feels it's all for nothing. Jeremy comes home to find his collectibles and Steve Harvey's book, realizing Kristen has found out and left. The men gather, feeling the loss of their relationships. Zeke comments that it's fair since the women started it, but they all eventually realize they are not happy. The next day, the boys decide to make real changes. Jeremy applies for the job, and Dominic sees potential in a food truck for sale. Bennett is about to leave as it is his turn to cook, but Cedric insults him because he is being henpecked. But Bennett shoots him pointers that Bennett is married and has to do his duty to his wife. This has a high impact on Cedric. Cedric admits he misses married life, contrasting his previous claims of enjoying being divorced. He calls Gail, admits he misses her, and agrees to come home, realizing that strip clubs aren't fulfilling. Michael brings flowers to his mom, telling her he can't go with her on the day of Candace's family reunion. He is surprised that Loretta doesn't react negatively, and now he knows why, as Loretta has been hitting it with the church deacon. Kristen gets an offer for a house, and Jeremy arrives to talk to her. He announces he got the job and wants to step up for their future. He kneels, pulls out a ring box, and proposes with a real ring, and Kristen accepts. Zeke changes his tune as well. He plays a song for Maya at a cafe, and she steps outside. Zeke chases her down, promising to start over, even if it means another 90 days without intimacy. He professes his love for her. Candace is being set up by her aunties when Michael arrives, determined to fix things with her. He announces his love for Candace to her entire family, making Duke happy too. The book nearly closes, but not quite for Lauren and Dominic. As Lauren preps for her date with James, she finds herself frustrated by their conflicting executive schedules and James's habit of talking big about himself and his work. Realizing she's not happy, Lauren ends things with James once again. Meanwhile, Candace shares that Dominic is opening a food truck, opting to start small instead of using the backer Lauren had introduced him to. The opening is a success, drawing an impressed crowd. Lauren cuts the line to order, fighting off other customers to get back to Dominic. However, Dominic initially dismisses her. Unfazed, Lauren insists on winning Dominic back, even insulting customers to beat it and not interfere with her moment. She realizes that despite their differences and Dominic's zero account balances, he makes her feel special, and no status or figures can do that. They share a kiss, sealing the deal.